Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Righteous Force, Chocolate Sane, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Any signs of a physical Earth curve edge, formerly known as the geometric horizon?
Not since 2019.
Yeah, geometric horizons are very 2019, aren't they? And 2018 and 2017. Any signs of any Earth curvature?
Not from Lake Mojave.
I reckon those two should be amalgamated, Chocolate. In light of what you've been saying this a few times, and I had cottoned on to exactly what you were saying, but you put it in a really concise way on Bullbusters. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, how the geometric horizon used to be called the curve, and how it's not called that anymore. And there's now the absolute certainty that we've never seen the geometric horizon, aka the curve. But yeah, I would feel like both questions are kind of the same, but you know,
they seemed kind of the same up until this point. But by the same token, the distinction is maybe how they've got away with it. Us realizing and discussing this verbally now is kind of an appreciation of that. There was a distinction being made between a physical demarcation point marked with an X in the model and what they actually discuss, which was how much is blocked of the target. That's what's being discussed when you talk about the calculator, right? The hidden value. So it's not really the prevailing part of the mathematics that you're being taken to. And what you're describing is things going over Earth curvature. But in reality, as you highlighted on Bullbusters and just a moment ago, that's Earth curve. What was formerly called Earth curve is the geometric horizon when you're quantifying it mathematically. The geometry giving you the physical geometric Earth curve edge, otherwise known as their heliocentric geometric horizon. Earth curve.
Yeah, I agree. And if that's the case, then the answer to the first question would kind of be then yes, because there is sign of that in the model, right?
Yeah.
It's just that when we apply that to reality, all of a sudden, no. So I guess you could say it like that. If you ask the first question, is there any sign of the physical Earth curve edge in the model? Yeah, sure. There's supposed to be one, right?
That's the answer
But
to the
now
second
when we
question.
get to questions, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's the answer to the second question. So the answer to the second question, any signs of Earth curve? Well, yeah. The Earth curve's in the Earth curve model.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Well, when you take Neil deGrasse Tyson saying that stuff is flat, and he takes his hand and makes a flat sign out of it, and he's saying how high you have to get to see the curve, Chocolate, according to Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Well, he did establish how high you have to go to see it. He says how high you are that you can't see it from.
Okay,
So
what was
you
that height?
can't see it from 128,000 feet.
Okay, so my point is, if you can't see it from 128,000 feet, how in the world is it supposed to be 1.22 miles in front of you at 1 foot observer height?
Aha.
Well, the answer to that
There goes
is
the trick.
the answer to that is to work your way back in terms of what you're doing when you use the maths. First step, take geometric consideration when looking at a non-physical, non-geometric location called the horizon. From there, you can reify that non-physical, constantly moving position called the horizon into a physical geometric Earth curve edge obstruction when you look at things beyond the horizon. Now, when I say with an elongated tone beyond, it's because what you're seeing is something that has an angular size greater than the diffraction limit at that point, or atmospheric conditions that would bring that horizon closer, causing the same effect or entire obstruction in the case of things like fog. My point being that the geometric consideration is the first thing that you will do. Reify something into a physical position. Later once you've gone through all of that process, deny entirely that the horizon marked with an X and labelled horizon in the geometric model is anything we would ever see in reality, as some sort of excuse upon reifying that physical geometric edge marked with an X and labelled horizon in their model into the horizon we actually see.
Well, my point, maybe I didn't say it right, is Neil deGrasse Tyson is agreeing with us that the radius of the Earth cannot be 3,959 miles.
Well, his statement's false based on their geometry. No, Mr. Tyson, according to your own rhetoric, we can measure Earth curve from the ground. So him saying that we can't see Earth curve from 120,000 feet when pointing out Felix Baumgartner's jump with fisheye lenses, again, our argument used as some sort of defence by Neil deGrasse Tyson, but also making both parties, Flat Earth and Globe Earth, reify the horizon into an edge. He's holding a ball and describing a geometric horizon on the ball. Where would you see the edge of the ball? That would be a geometric horizon. And then when he talks about going up to the heights that Felix Baumgartner went up to, he's saying you won't see the curve of the Earth at 120,000 feet, meaning you won't see the geometric horizon bend, allowing both parties to simultaneously beg the question that the horizon is a physical geometric Earth curve obstruction, and how much it would be perceived to be bending on one axis when you rise in altitude. It still requires the physicality that he's got by implication when he holds a globe-shaped beach ball. That globe-shaped beach ball is the thing that tells the audience we're talking about the edge of the beach ball and how much you can see and how much it obscures, or in this instance, how much it bends at altitude. Because it's a physical geometric Earth curve edge obstruction that he's holding when he holds a ball. He's saying the Earth is this ball. Therefore, the edge of the horizon is the same as the edge of this ball when it blocks things, or you see it curving. But you won't if you're only a millimetre above it. Well, you will. You've got maths to show us just how much we can measure that. But the Earth curve in the maths that says how much we can measure it simultaneously tells us that the horizon cannot ever be visible as a geometric obstruction. That's a thought experiment.
Yeah, exactly. So he's holding a beach ball, just like if I held the basketball, and you could be a foot away from me, or in his case, the audience member, maybe 30 feet in front of him, sitting in a chair as he's talking. We see the shape of the ball. We could see the curvature on the ball. I could see it in the model in his hand, that globe-shaped beach ball, but he's telling me I could go up and I can't see it. But his math holds him to it. At 1 foot, it's got to be 1.22 miles. So he's contradicting himself at the same time.
Yeah, even on the axis that he's claiming you wouldn't see bend, in the advanced parts of the calculations for the globe geometry, yeah, you should see it bend. Again, at ground level. With the composite image, wow, that's a big super chat. Shout out to Retro Bill. Just a little something to get your work off to a jolly start. Cheers to all on the panel as well. Thank you very much indeed for a $100 super chat, Retro Bill. Really do appreciate it. Yeah, he's wrong. In the advanced part of the calculator, you can calculate how much the horizon should bend. And given, albeit with a composite, so we had to stitch together a piece of videography into still images that you could pan across. They'll scroll by on the screen. If I actually had the screenshots rolling, it's been stuck on an image of the Isle of Man from Sandra. But yeah, eventually on these screenshots, you'll see the composite image that Ranty produced for the Isle of Man discussion. And that composite image, you should be able to calculate how much that axis, the horizon, Earth curve, formerly known geometric horizon, formerly known Earth curve, would bend from the ground. Not talking about huge amounts in the air. Woohoo! Arwen's here. Arwen had 500th show today.
Yes, I did. Hello, Nathan. Hello, guys.
Good to have you, Arwen.
Damn, you're at 500 shows? Huh.
Yeah.
Congrats, brother.
500 early bird shows because I had a more flatter talk shows before that, of course.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, man.
I'll put you on
That's
screen.
awesome. Congrats,
Take a bow.
brother.
Take a bow. Put you on screen. Take a bow.
Take a bow.
500 shows. Woo, woo, woo. Well done.
Good job, Armin.
Yeah, serious dedication.
I don't think I talked about flat Earth though the entire show, except for the last moment. But,
Right, get out.
Oh, sorry.
That's Godzilla for the super chat. Let's see if I can bring it up on the other page. I struggle to read it on the other screen.
Oh, you got a lot of super chats today.
Yeah, well, I got one massive one from Retro Bill. Thank you very much, Retro Bill. For $100, at least read it right. He said, "Week, not work. Love you." It's because it was on the biggest screen. I'm sorry, Godzilla and Retro Bill. Just a little something to get your week off to a jolly start. Cheers to all on the panel as well, says Retro Bill. Thank you for correcting me, Godzilla, with a super chat. I'll read it again. We only got 2 questions.
Cheers right back. Shout out to you guys.
We've decided, while you're away, Arwin, to amalgamate the 2 housekeeping questions that get asked at the start of the show. And the reason I'll repeat, because it's worth repeating. So, any evidence of a physical geometric Earth curve edge, formerly known as the horizon, in their geometric model, and then followed by any signs of Earth curvature of any description. Well, on Ballbusters, Chocolate was really concise to point out that Earth curve is the geometric horizon. That's the assertion. If you go up in height, you're talking about Earth curve when you talk about how much the horizon bends. When you're at the ground and you talk about things being obscured into the distance at the horizon, they're talking about things being obscured by Earth curve or boats going over Earth curve. So the geometric horizon is Earth curve. We've debunked it. We no longer have a geometric horizon, but there's no point asking for any signs of Earth curve because the answer to that question is yes in the geometric now debunked model only.
You might want to rephrase that first question though, because the way you asked it is there any signs of all of that in their model? And then I'd say, yeah, in their model, it's all there. But if you say any of that in the real world, like in their model, and then that would not be so easy.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I said. What the first question would be, is there any sign of it? And we'll be, yeah, in the model, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But when we get to question number 2, is there actual Earth curve? Then it will be no.
Okay, so that's supposed to be like that. I mean,
Well, we used to answer the first question with no, right? Because we used to apply that to the Earth. But the answer is yes, because it is required in the model. It's in the model. There's an X at a place that's supposed to be a physical location, right? So yeah, there is a sign of it in the model or in their maths, right? In the geometry. But when we apply that to Earth, it's not there.
I'm going to do a quick plug, as he's asked me to, with a super chat. So, subscribe today to Good Servant, who's releasing videos. And his latest video, I'm going to put a link to in the chat. So you can go and check him out. Check out his new video. There it is. So subscribe today to Good Servant. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat.
I'd like to address the refraction claim.
Go ahead.
Well, it's a modus ponens, but light bending or light changing angles is refraction. So if the horizon is refracted, we should observe changing dip angles to the horizon. We don't observe that, so the horizon cannot be refracted.
No, we do. The horizon changes its position, doesn't it? The whole point is we have varying dip angles. So if you've got a varying dip angle because of constant refraction, how are you going to derive radius from it? In other words, the Al-Biruni method, you're drawing a triangle basically from your point at the top of the mountain to the horizon. But if that's moving around, you're not measuring a physical geometric location to derive a radius. That's the point. But let me just correct you slightly, just so you rewired better, without sounding rude. If you haven't got a straight line to the horizon, then you can't do geometry. So their argument is to say that the light has reached us and been deviated from straight. Well, geometry requires a straight line between the point that you're measuring, which would be the tangent point, the edge of their curve they claim, and you as the observer inside profile. Well, you're going to draw a straight line between the two. The line is called a tangent. That straight line. Well, every time they argue because they're idiots, well, it's refracted. Oh, right, so not geometric then. Now, they're idiots. The best one was the one that was the most pompous and proud about this fact, AB Science, who went out of his way to declare how we were all idiots, while simultaneously sacrificing his own geometric certitude of a sphere Earth by saying that we don't have any straight lines to it, and then drawing donkey dick geometry for me to use constantly over and over again in the little clips I use. A straight line we haven't got, and a bent donkey dick line to a different position. You know what I mean? In other words, you don't have geometry then. You don't have a straight line between this fake point that moves throughout the day. So if it's refracted, it's not geometric. We move on with housekeeping. Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Nope.
Axis, where's this axis supposed to be?
Yeah, might need an axis first.
Yeah, we are definitely going to be needing an axis. I'm pretty sure that
Celestial axis?
2 weeks from now, the next Ballbusters, we'll be covering the top three. If you subscribe to Nathan Oakley 1980, you might have kept up with the top three that I did. I'm pretty sure Quantum Eraser's top three will be the same as my top three. So we'll see. But I haven't actually discussed it with him. We'll find out when I do next. But yeah, check it out. That's going to be the next Ballbusters. So I don't know if he's keeping that under wraps, if he's changed his order to mine. So I won't necessarily go through the order of it because it might be subtly different. But nevertheless, top three globe killers.
No, I'm pretty sure they're the same.
Okay, I will then. So axial rotation is one of the proofs that we're not on a spinning space ball flying through a vacuum. And axial rotation is to imply that we have a spinning Earth. It's simple as that. If we have a spinning Earth, this is claimed to be proven out by Coriolis effect. And even the layman amongst the audience members will appreciate that the words Coriolis effect conjure the image of globe Earth proof. Even though in reality it's a very simple principle. If you're on a spinning roundabout and you throw a ball above you, you're holding a ball on a spinning roundabout, you throw it up, it'll fly away behind you. Well, it seems like it's going in a curved path when it flies away behind you from your vantage point because you're spinning, even though in reality it's just gone up and down. Yeah, it might have gone a little bit left or a little bit right depending on how you threw it, but ultimately speaking it's not following a curved trajectory, it's just going straight. But it seems to curve if you're on a roundabout spinning underneath it because you're spinning underneath it. Well, that principle's applied to a sphere Earth to claim there's a proof of spinning ball Earth. We see a Coriolis deviation, according to them, on a spinning ball Earth. In reality, we don't see a deviation of any description. If you threw a ball above your head and you were just standing on the ground, you should see a Coriolis effect, albeit very slight. Which is why because it's supposed to be slight with things like balls and bullets, because they're only in the air for a couple of seconds, that's where they lie and say that they do have Coriolis deviation. In reality, anything that leaves a spinning reference frame, like the ball leaves the roundabout when you throw it in the air, an aeroplane, helicopter or drone, would be much more affected by this claimed deviation. In other words, you'd see the plane curving from the ground, like you saw the ball curving. Now that effect is a not actual effect, it's not really curving. The plane would only seem to curve from the ground because you're watching a plane from a spinning surface, i.e. a claim to be spinning Earth. The problem is that if the Earth's spinning underneath the aeroplane, then the continent it's travelling to is coming towards it, and the flight times would be massively reduced when travelling west, and you'd be fighting against Earth turn when travelling east. In other words, if there's a Coriolis effect, then there's a Coriolis effect. The fact that we do not observe any in things with the most prolonged hang time demonstrates that there's absolutely unequivocally no Coriolis deviation observable from the ground, because the Earth is not rotating underneath drones, helicopters, aeroplanes, or in fact anything that leaves the ground. There must be a deviation, though, if the Earth was turning. That would be Coriolis deviation observable from the ground, or the Earth rotating underneath an aeroplane, and your continent you're travelling to coming towards you a lot quicker when travelling west. That doesn't happen because the Earth is not rotating. So this will get far more detailed explanations in terms of a concise explanation of what the Coriolis effect is, the 5-point exploding globe-tard trick, which is to say, establish with the globe-tard exactly what Coriolis effect actually is, and then move on to what's causing things to seem like they're travelling in a curved path, even though they're travelling straight, and that cause is Earth rotating underneath in their paradigm. All you then do is demonstrate how Earth is not rotating underneath an aeroplane, and give an example. For example, Charlotte, North Carolina to LA. If you were travelling on a plane with the Earth rotating underneath, and you're standing watching that flight seem to curve because Earth's turning underneath it, not that it would, it's on the same latitude, but it doesn't matter, that's a deviation from the point. If you're on that flight, it would take an hour and a half when you get to LA, because LA's come towards you. The ground's turning when you left it, causing the Coriolis deviation observable from the ground. But that is the argument, not Coriolis effect. Once you establish what Coriolis actually is, something seeming to deviate because you're rotating underneath it, once you've got that established, you've got it established firmly in the principle that Earth should be rotating underneath things, like planes and helicopters and drones, and it doesn't. So establish what Coriolis effect is, deviation from the ground, things seeming to curve because Earth's turning underneath them, and then just show that things aren't turning underneath Earth. So that'll go, like I say, that'll be 2 weeks from now on Ballbusters, a little under 2 weeks from now. Should we move on?
But isn't that...
Go on.
Before you do, as you're saying all this, I'm thinking about the emperor's example you gave, where he's naked, but he thinks he's got this invisible, wonderful magic thread, that he's wearing some kind of jacket or kingly outfit. Everyone's under this spell that we're spinning, and it's been taught to them since, kindergarten, and you see a globe all the time. So when we're talking to normies, not trolls, but normies, it's amazing how their eyes hit the top of their head when you bring up some of the things you just did. And it's just perspective for so many things, like, the horizon and how far you could see one day, and then the next day you can't see as far. That doesn't prove the edge of the ball Earth. That just means that day you saw a little further, and another day, because of fog, you see a little less. So the perspective argument is beautiful. This argument with Coriolis is beautiful. And it's pride. People's pride is so immense when you bring this simple fact. You just explained it like a kid would understand it. And then they say, no way, I can't. Don't tell me the Earth isn't spinning. It has to be, because I believe it. Now, they can't prove it, and you just killed it with your explanation. But then pride kicks in the normie, that I've experienced with the normies who still resist the argument that I give them. And it's like, they're gone. They think it's spinning, like the emperor thinks he's got clothes. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Don't forget the best part, though, is that the Coriolis effect is supposed to actually exist, Earth-based, right? It's supposed to exist. Yeah. That's supposed to be one of their proofs. But then when you ask them, why don't we see this? They give you reasonings as to why we don't see this effect that is supposed to actually exist and we're supposed to be able to see. And they tell us reasons why we can't see it. Well, isn't that supposed to be your argument? Why would you argue that you can't see it?
Well, the proof, it's just like the geometric horizon marked with an X. It's there, you can't see it. Coriolis were spinning, but you can't see it. All their proofs you can't see. So how's it a proof?
Yeah. There's a pattern with that, huh?
Yes, there is a pattern. You're right. And the only tactic, once you've got to the root of what the actual problem for their paradigm is, the glaring contradiction in both cases, that would be that it's claimed Earth curve is blocking boats and curving at altitude, while simultaneously we're told we'll never see a geometric horizon with a Jedi hand wave. And the same principle applies to Coriolis. We're told the proof of Earth spinning is this Coriolis deviation. Things rotate, and when you leave them, from your vantage point, the thing that's left seems to curve because it's travelling straight and you're travelling underneath it. So you end up with a perceived curved path of something. That's Coriolis deviation. And Earth's got that. Well, straight away, a lot of people glaze over just in the description of what Coriolis effect is. When you then apply the principle to Earth and say it's happening to a bullet, most people won't take the cognitive step to say if it's happening under that bullet or happening under that ball, as Neil deGrasse Tyson claimed, the football gets kicked, it deflects into the goal because Earth turns underneath. Well, if it's turning and the ball's deflecting and it seems like it's curving from the stand but it's actually travelled straight when it left the ground, well then surely a plane will travel straight when it leaves the ground and Earth will turn underneath it. But that doesn't happen. But that's quite a few steps. So Coriolis is more convoluted than, hence it's at number 3 on the list. It's more convoluted, and they've managed to shroud it in bullshit with people who are uninitiated into the argument, or even understand what the argument is, or don't understand what Coriolis effect is, more importantly than anything. So as I say, in the next Ballbusters, the 5-point exploding globe tard trick will be explained in detail, which is to say, tie your opponent down to what Coriolis effect actually is. You've got something spinning underneath something else. Simple as that. The thing that's not spinning is the thing that's left the platform, i.e. a roundabout, and that's supposed to be Earth. So a plane is equivalent to a ball being thrown from your hand. It's left the roundabout. The plane leaves the Earth that's supposed to spin and doesn't have the Earth turned underneath it, because Earth isn't turning. So it gets fairly convoluted and long-winded to debunk Coriolis. Now, Earth curve, on the other hand, far more simplistic when you understand the Black Swan argument. We don't have a geometric horizon. Welcome to Flat Earth. Really quick argument, the Black Swan, once you understand it.
Nathan, before you keep going, can I add one more to this pattern that Chocolate and I are talking about?
Well, before you do, Cleary says, I bet you $2 you won't read this.
Good one.
He won, but I got the $2.
That's good, Cleary.
No, actually, you got 120.
120? You think Retro Bill needs another shout out for the $100 super chat? I don't mind. Retro Bill is constantly giving me super chats. He's really, really good. Thank you so much for all your support, Retro Bill. Worthy of another shout out. $100 super chat. Woohoo!
Yeah, just saying. Google takes some of it, but that's okay. Let's not spoil it.
Owen's rubbing his hands together, going,
The people who let me use their site and give me an audience take some money too.
Too bad you can't go to dinner, Nathan.
If you say it like that, it sounds really creepy.
All right. So the other one is the atmosphere and gas behavior. So we know that gas moves in all directions. And they'll say that the atmosphere, which is gas, more than one type, is moving with the Earth. Well, right there, it dies right there because you have north, east, south, and west winds. So how is it possible that the whole atmosphere is moving with the Earth on a westerly direction? So that's another one of those things that they say, but they can't prove, and the evidence proves otherwise, meaning you can always disprove their statement.
without giving any hints away about what the top 3 might be, any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container?
No.
No. Unless you want to count having gas in a container as having not gas, or having gas not in a container, then could be possible.
I see. So if I was to show you a demonstration of gas pressure without a container inside a container, that could be a demonstration of gas pressure without a container, but just a container used to demonstrate gas pressure without a container. That sort of demo.
Yes.
Yeah, it kind of ignores the question, though, doesn't it? How can you have gas pressure without a container? Doesn't imply that we want to see a container creating a space that doesn't have gas pressure without a container. That makes no sense because you've got a container. Another shout out to Retro Bill. Wow, it's just dropping loads of cash on me. Thank you very much. It is tough times, though. I'm definitely not going to say no. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Retro Bill. I have to read it on the small screen. I'm going to butcher this too because I can't see it as it's the last super chat. Just a little something extra to cover those pesky YouTube fees. Thanks, Arwin. I think your comment got me an extra super chat. Thank you, seriously, Retro Bill. Really do appreciate it. So before we get sidetracked, though, gas pressure without a container, people are getting a mini warm-up for the Ballbusters that's coming up next. So I'll plug this a lot because I like top 3 shows, especially when they're debunking heliocentrism. But yeah, so gas pressure without a container was on my list as number 2. I don't know where it'll sit in the list for Quantum Erasers list. I'm sure we'll discuss it. However, this was the former number 1, the best globe debunking there was prior to the Black Swan, which we've covered already in terms of the geometric horizon. That's the Black Swan argument, if anybody hadn't figured that out. But gas pressure without a container, former number 1, down 1 at number 2, is equally as good. If you crick your neck if you've got a window nearby and look at the sky for a moment, if you're an audience member, and ask yourself this question. If the sky was a vacuum, how am I breathing any gas? The gas I'm breathing would evacuate into that space. That's what gas does. Expands in all directions to fill the available volume it has available to fill. And if the sky is a vacuum, then that's an available volume for the gas to fill. And the gas would expand in all directions and fill that space. Not just quickly, instantaneously. So we'd all be here with no gas. But we do have gas, and the necessary antecedent is a container. Hence the question, how can you have gas pressure without a container, given that the globe Earth model has us as a sphere in a vacuum without any containment? Got little ships flying out to what are claimed to be rocks in the sky vacuum, also defying natural law. Nevertheless, we don't have a container in the heliocentric model, we're just gas clinging to this rock that's flying at absolutely astronomical speeds. But the gas doesn't fly off, it just holds here. And the rebuttal we get is gravity. Well, no, gravity's not overcoming entropy. And I'll use Mark Sargent's shortcut to explain this. If your first floor is a vacuum, and your ground floor is normal gas pressure, and there's a cork between the two, what is actually occurring when the cork is in place is the gas pressure is hitting the cork and bouncing off it. As soon as you remove the cork, there's nothing for the gas pressure to bounce off of, so it all goes through the hole, upwards into the vacuum, and equalises. So the gas fills the space, regardless of the direction being upward. So the assertion that we have a non-force force that you can think of as a force called gravity, actually the bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time, only existing in the reified idea of a man called Einstein, permeated amongst the masses through books and education, this non-force force that you can think of as a force bending of conceptual medium pseudo-Riemannian force space, won't overcome entropy, which is a natural law. The gas will fill the space. If the sky was a vacuum, we would not be breathing, because the gas would fill the space. Now, why go through all this diatribe? Well, it's asserted the sky is a vacuum, called outer space. Irony of irony, they call it space. A space for the gas to fill? Yeah, they're just laughing at us. Well, all the photos that are claimed to prove Earth's sphericity from space are being taken from a second law of thermodynamics violation. You can't have gas pressure without a container. You can't fly a little ship through the gas we're breathing into a vacuum to take a picture of a sphere Earth. All of the pictures, all of the claims and the little shows, the little plays that they have on television about this region called space are all fake. Instantly made debunked by the second law of thermodynamics and gas law.
Hear, hear.
Not bad. 30 minutes, that was a proper little 3-step plan to debunking any notion of heliocentricity that you may have as an audience member. Not a bad start to a Monday.
Yeah, very good, I'd say. Plus, they made they made the stuff up as the years went by to fool us. They made a critical error about their non-force force, which is labeled gravity. And they got two types, Newtonian and Einsteinian, as you said. But the mistake is simple. The gravity, if it did exist in their model, which it doesn't, I just want to say that up front, they say it's stronger at ground level, right? Because the Earth's core is magnetic, and that's what's pulling the oceans and everybody towards it. Well, the higher you go, it's weaker. The closer you are to the ground, it's stronger. So right there, it's telling you that they should have, if they were smart, say that gravity is stronger further away than the Earth's surface, because they're trying to say this gravity that can't even keep the gas on the ground is keeping it next to this vacuum of space where it's weaker. So it doesn't make any sense even if you gave it to them.
Well, is there any scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
So Nathan, do you believe that if you had one floor above another and a gap and a hole between them, the pressures would equalise in the first and second floor?
Yeah, it's called entropy.
Right, so you believe, let's say it straight. So if I have two floors, lower floor, and an upper floor. It's a natural
law. I don't believe this.
You believe the pressure will equalise, do you?
It's natural law. It's not a belief.
Right, so you believe that...
No. Third time. Repeat it again as a belief and I'll kick you out. I'll say it again for a third time. This is not a belief. If you interrupt me repeating it, I'll kick you out also. This is not a belief. This is a natural... Right, you've got to be removed. Bastard. Total bastard. No, this is not a belief. Yes, this is a natural law, a law of nature, applicable always. Not a belief. Now piss off. Interrupt me 3 sodding times declaring this as my belief. It's not. It's natural law. If the sky was a vacuum, natural law dictates that the gas would fill the space. Not my belief, sunshine. 3 times. Unbelievable bastard. Moving on. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No.
So there's a reason we ask for scientific evidence of gravity and any viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics. That's because people like Rumpus came along and told us that the whole body of science proved we were on a sphere, until we started to point out what science actually is, the establishment of cause and effect. Then it turns out that, according to these fundamentalist religious zealots who have a ball belief, that science, according to them, doesn't prove anything. Well, that's loosely translated into our pseudoscience formerly claimed to prove we stand on a sphere doesn't prove anything, because science definitely proves things. It proves cause. That's the whole point. You wouldn't do it if you didn't have a point. Well, the point's to prove cause. Science does prove things. Pseudoscience used to assert we're on a sphere, however, that used to be claimed to prove we're on a sphere. That doesn't prove anything. That's pseudoscience. Hence, we ask for scientific theory based on scientific evidence, not colloquial theory based on bullshit, which is what we were being asserted as being science by people who'd hijacked that term, because we're intrinsically programmed to believe that scientific evidence is proof of things. So if you label a tyre test as science, suddenly people think it's proven that your Goodyear tyres are better than Firestone. No, not science. Definitely not establishing cause and effect with independent and dependent variables. But that's the kind of thing we used to have asserted here. The whole body of science proves we're on a sphere. No, the whole body of pseudoscience used to pretend we lived on a sphere till we debunked it.
I got a certain hostile witness who will sort of agree with us, who says, quote, in science, we always say that you make observations, you have a theory, you make more observations, and it's a very, very tedious process. Wrong. Nobody that I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method. In our field, it's by the seat of your pants. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork. Quote. Michio Kaku.
Have you got the bromine demonstration for hand? Rumpus is still in the chat saying, so you believe that the pressure would equalise? Yeah, we can show a demonstration of it if you like, Rumpus.
Yeah,
We've got that bromine demonstration. I'll stick it up for Rumpus because he's spamming the chat saying the same thing. I don't allow spam in this chat, so I'll just time him out so he can learn not to spam my chat. Don't spam the same shit over and over again. Learn to type a new sentence, Rumpus. It's pathetic. Copy and paste. Sad. Same answer I gave you while you were here, you pathetic little man, and you interrupted. It's not a belief, it's a natural law. It's called the second law of thermodynamics. It's the entropy law. Look into it. Not my belief. That's why I removed you from this call. You're welcome back tomorrow.
I love it. Good job there. It's interesting how
one of these
Neil
bulbs,
deGrasse Tyson.
some bromine,
Just one sec.
and in the other I have a vacuum.
What in
And
the
if I
world?
open the tap between these two, you will see spontaneously the bromine rush from one to the other. Now that is the simplest way, the bromine rush from one to the other. Now that is the simplest change we can have, perhaps, because all that happens is a change in entropy.
As I say, second law of thermodynamics is the entropy law. If you have an available volume for a gas to fill, then the gas will fill it. That's what gas does. It expands in all directions to fill the available volume. As I say, it's called entropy. It's a natural law, not a belief. Let's move on.
It sounds like, from Rumpus's question, though, it sounds like he believes that that would not happen. That's what it sounds like to me.
Rumpus has never had a flat tire.
Well, that's no problem. We have a housekeeping question to cover that. How can you have gas pressure without a container? We'd need a demonstration of that, as it's asserted that the Earth is a pressurised system without any containment, and that violates natural law by demonstration. Easy to demonstrate, it's natural law. It applies always. So we have these things called natural laws, applicable always, and a heliocentric model has an idea of gas pressure without containment in a region only visible from a place that we can't travel to and violates this very law. So therefore, we'd need to see that as an actual demonstration. We'd need you to violate that natural law, as per your model violating it. We're never going to get a demonstration of gas pressure without a container, because you can't have gas pressure without a container.
What I was going to say earlier was Michio Kaku and Neil deGrasse Tyson and the rest of the people that are similar to them always are barking at the little people about science and how they've gone and studied and they know what they're talking about and science, and you know, you have to know it. And then when it comes to these simple questions, they have to now say science doesn't prove things. All the trolls, all the ballers. Well, why don't you listen to your high priest that say science? Like Neil deGrasse lately has a master class, and he's talking about science. Okay, let's talk about real science, not pseudoscience. And the minute you bring up all the failings of the globe model, all of a sudden science doesn't prove things. But the whole show is based on science proving things.
Anyone else got anything to add to gas pressure without a container, as this is a mini housekeeping show?
Nope.
Well, maybe the confusion for Rumpus is that he's not too sure whether or not the second law of thermodynamics applies to the Earth. And if he's maybe it's hard for him to remember, I posted a clip of that in Ballbusters just to remind him.
Right. Also, I'd like to remind everyone that gas doesn't really have weight, in the sense that weight is a relative density. Detraction, based on measuring something's relative density within the medium of air. So air does, you can't measure air within air. So that therefore air holds no weight, and thus you cannot even technically reason out that it ejected by gravity, but like that.
The second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth.
Oh, maybe that's why he was asking me about the belief that I held, because he's under the misapprehension that the second law of thermodynamics, which is a natural law derived in nature, doesn't apply to the Earth. That's probably why he thought I had a belief about that. When applied to his reification of a sphere model, he would have assumed that...
Well, we have you on record saying that. It's just...
Where have you got me on record saying that entropy doesn't apply to the Earth? I'd never say such a thing. The second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth.
Yeah, we're dealing with retards when it comes to Rumpus. He's going to talk through me constantly asserting that I've got a belief in something when he asserts quite boldly that the second law of thermodynamics, a natural law, which I stated to him and he rumpused and talked through me 3 separate occasions declaring belief. No, retard. You think this natural law derived in nature applicable to nature doesn't apply to the Earth? Yeah, that's why you think I've got a belief about it applying in demonstration, as shown with the little clip we had earlier demonstrating entropy, gas filling space. Yeah, that's a natural law. It definitely applies to the Earth, so Rumpus isn't really welcome or useful in this conversation. He hasn't got the vaguest clue what a natural law even is. He thinks that the second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth.
The second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth.
Yes, it does, you complete retard. So anybody who trusts in Rumpus and his opinion of these things and his expression that we've got beliefs, no, we're talking about actual, genuine laws of nature. He's got beliefs in reified X marks the spot's horizons. We, on the other hand, talk about natural law here. So hence he's not welcome when he's declaring, I've got a belief in a natural law. Not a belief, sunshine. Anyway, let's move on. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
No way. If X is the mark and they can't prove it, there is no R value.
Well, the radius is kind of up for grabs at this moment, so it might be slightly bigger or something.
Slightly.
You know?
According to the Black Swan image, it's out of the circumference of the Earth would be the same as the claimed, begging the question, orbital trajectory, if that's the right word, of the Moon around the Earth. That would be the circumference of Earth.
I think that plane flight from Charlotte might take longer then.
Am I wrong in that? Have I given that incorrectly? Does that value end up being the radius? Brian. Hello, Brian. Can you hear us?
What?
What? You're sanding something on a live show. Let's just remove him. What?
No, you're not wrong, Nathan. At 10 miles, at a 1 foot observer height, the radius of the Earth would go from this agreed upon by the ballers 33,959. It would have to be 264,000 miles. The radius. And
the radius.
Much closer.
So yeah. So the radius of Earth does become the begging the question orbital path. That's nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, by 21,000 miles extra, because it's what 249,000 to the Moon, they say, and this would be it's more than that. It's 264, so over 20-something thousand miles. It's so dumb.
Yeah, the Earth grows out to the size of where the Moon currently is claimed to travel around us. Not that I'm in any way buying that bullshit either, but I'm just giving it in their mathematics just so people can visualise it. Obviously, most people are still wired in some sort of way to, picture these things in heliocentric terms. That said, most average Joes, I'll just drop this in, most average Joes don't actually appreciate how vast that distance is. If you were to describe to them how far out the Moon was and, get them to draw it on a little diagram and say, right, draw a picture of the Earth, now draw a picture of the Moon, roughly how far away you think it is in a rough scale. And they'd never get it right. They'd never get it anywhere near close. It's much, 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 much further than people anticipate. I remember seeing a YouTube channel once where they showed it with like a football and a golf ball, the golf ball being the Moon and the football being the Earth. And they were like a considerable, more than 100 metres away from each other to get the scale right. They're a vast distance away from each other to show that scale. Jaron's done it a few times as well. Jaron's had his software with the heliocentric system in it on Jaronism, and he will show it to scale, and then you'll see him clicking the mouse for ages and ages and ages to get out to a scale where it's a tiny dot, it's a single pixel on his screen to get the two in frame. And it obviously becomes a massive nightmare when you're trying to do it with the sun at those scales. But that's why I've tagged this onto the 2 questions: any evidence of the R value, and then I was going to move on to any evidence of the distance of the sun. Hopefully tie those things into there. Go on.
Can I have Chocolate do the Mr. Sensible at best?
Well, at best, what you've done is disprove the radius of the Earth. At best, of course.
Okay,
but
so
along those lines, to go back to the quote that I read earlier, Nathan,
Oh, God.
I dropped. Somebody has a response to that quote that I read and feels like I misread it. I posted that in Ballbusters. Somebody
the
can
M.
read
Scott
it.
Peach thing?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
You want to read that out for me? Because it's a little loud here, but
Okay.
I'm sure you'll be very interested.
Yes. What, by the way, does SMH mean? I have no idea.
shaking my head.
Oh! Wow. That only took me like 10 years to get that. Anyway, shaking my head, you took the exact wrong meaning out of what Michio Kaku quote law. Out of that. Just think about it. He's saying no one in a field of physics actually uses a strict scientific method. You think that's him admitting that they're not doing science? That's absurd. He's saying that the scientific method isn't required to do science. It's petulant in the extreme to imagine that you guys on the panel who have never actually done anything that anyone would call science have a better grasp on how to define it than the people who are actually making progress and adding to humanity's knowledge base.
That would be M. Scott Veitch, lying son of an astronaut. So he's got a lot to lose in this debate because his father, who's overtly lied to him and the rest of the nation about travelling to a second law of thermodynamics violation known as the sky vacuum, also called outer space. He hasn't been to outer space, his father was a liar. Now his son defends the lie, saying that what people call science is the establishment of cause and effect. Science is the scientific method. Now, what he calls science is pseudoscience and lies in his instance, because he's parroting lies. He's got a little Quora section from him about how you can have gas pressure without a container because of gravity, something that definitely doesn't overcome entropy. It's a pseudo force, and not actual force, not forcing anything to do anything. But yet he's lying to people about it, and then defending the use of pseudoscience, things people call science. No, science is observing natural phenomena and trying to establish what caused it. That's science. It's very narrow. It's been hijacked because of its empirical nature. Science establishes cause through experimentation. It's empirical because you have a null. If A, then B. If A, not B. At the end of your experimentation, you validate or invalidate your hypothesis, making the method empirical. You either prove or disprove your assumed cause of the effect. Invalidating it if you get it wrong, validating it if you get it right. Empirical. Very useful for liars like M. Scott Veitch and his father to call their little trips into a fake place science. It's an outrage from liars. There's only a few people in this argument we can call liars. He's one of them. A liar. Now, what these liars do is they hijack science, an empirical method, and call trips in rockets science. No, they're not. But that's what they'll call them because they're lying overtly about the place they're travelling to. So they call their little trip to a fantasy place called space science. It isn't. It's pseudoscience. Overt lies in this man's case. Should we move on?
Like father, like son.
Yeah, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Where were all the real scientists when they were developing this heliocentric system? Wasn't there anyone that was fighting it?
Well, have you ever considered that it could have been their hobby project? That they were handed like, hey, this is something interesting, like futurism thinking, and they just worked on it, and then like industrialists basically used their work for mind control purposes. I think a lot of it was established that way. Because a
But you know,
lot of these things are just based on natural conclusions based on presuppositions.
you know what I love though. My favorite part is the man himself tells you nobody in my field uses scientific method, and these guys will come in here and tell us, no, 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 that's not what he really meant. What he really had meant is blah blah blah. Like, are you serious? This man himself tells you nobody in his field uses scientific method. So, who am I supposed to take your word for it, M. Scott Veach? When you want to tell me I'm wrong and I used his quote out of context? Come on, man. Get a grip. He's telling you
Context.
himself. Don't be mad at me.
Yeah, the context
Don't be
is
mad at us because we're pointing it out to you, bro. Right?
context is summarized in the quote, Chocolate. It's self-explanatory. He's talking
Exactly.
and addressing directly the use of the scientific method. So there's no question about the context at all.
No. You guys are getting it all wrong. You are thinking about this way too much in actual speak. You know, this.
Oh, you mean the really is level?
That's right.
Yeah. That's where my brain operates. I don't operate in the fantasy second law of thermodynamics violation place that your father went to, M. Scott Veach, and you think you're proud of that? Meanwhile, the guy's telling you we don't use scientific method, and you're like, nah, what he really meant? Nah, I'm good. I don't need you to translate English for me, my friend. Thanks.
Right.
Hey, Nathan.
Why
Nathan,
would
I
you
post.
take what he says literally when you can think exactly the opposite of it, which is more in political advantage of where you want to go? You know?
Indeed. Go ahead, Tenth Man.
Nathan, I posted something in Master B. If you could post this from Andrew Thomas Young, and it's going to validate Arvin's point.
Invalidate or validate?
Validate. Arvin was spot on.
Okay, go ahead. It's on screen.
All right, calculating atmospheric refraction. This is on his bottom last paragraph on the topic of refraction. All the discussion above, excuse me, deals with plane surfaces, period. But the Earth isn't flat! Exclamation point. Arwin said the key word, presupposition. They're told the Earth is a globe and we're spinning all these different directions. So when they go to do their pseudoscience, they have that as the begging the question presupposition that they got to match. So here he is saying everything I've done is over a plane surface, but I've got to match it to the Earth not being flat. So Arvin nailed it.
Perfect.
Can I reiterate another quote by the same man?
If you can do
Because
it in 30
maybe
seconds.
you want to tell me.
Yes, but
Maybe
do it
you want to
quickly.
tell me how I misquote this, right?
Go ahead.
Well, quote, usually in science, if we're off by a factor of 2 or a factor of 10, we call that horrible. We say something's wrong with the theory. We're off by a factor of 10. However, in cosmology, we're off by a factor of 10 to the 120. That is 1 with 120 zeros after it. This is the largest mismatch between theory and experiment in the history of science.
Notice he uses
Unquote.
the word experiment,
Wow.
a very specific term in science.
Exactly.
Yeah. So he's talking contextually about the scientific method when he uses the word experiment. This is a trained astrophysicist, so he knows what experiment is. It's contextual and specific. Last but by no means least, just because we're running out of live air. So any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No.
None whatsoever.
But can real quick, I know we're about to end, but can I point out one more thing?
Go ahead.
Look how he actually separates cosmology and science. Right? He starts the quote with in science, blah blah blah. But then he says he turns it to but in cosmology, Oh, so does that mean cosmology is not science? Well, thank you very much, Michio Kaku.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Exactly.
that.
I thought it was
Exactly.
brilliantly honest, really.
It is. It is absolutely brilliantly honest, Darwin. You're not wrong. And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you tuned in live on the Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream, or premiering stream, live stream. Stay tuned if you're watching on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, as there will be an after show to follow. But once again, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and smashed the super chat. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panel for making this live show possible. Stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!